The United States Constitution was not born from a moment of calm reflection. It was drafted as a desperate act of political survival. Following the Revolutionary War, the founders feared recreating a monarchy so intensely that they built a national government designed to be intentionally weak, the Articles of Confederation. Under this first blueprint, Congress could not levy taxes, regulate trade between the states, or raise a national army. By 1786, those missing powers caused the system to buckle. In Massachusetts, thousands of indebted farmers took up arms in an uprising known as Shays' Rebellion. Because the national government had no money and no authority to raise a militia, it could not intervene, an outcome that terrified influential national leaders like George Washington and Alexander Hamilton. Realizing that a government unable to maintain order could not protect liberty, delegates locked the doors in Philadelphia, scrapped the blueprint, and started over. The 55 delegates inside that room were deeply divided politicians, tasked with engineering a functional government out of competing regional interests. They designed the Electoral College as a workaround for the logistical difficulty of a national popular vote, and as a buffer to insulate the presidency from demagogues. To resolve disputes between large and small states, they split legislative power, a House based on population and an equal Senate. To keep the South in the Union, delegates agreed to the 3/5 compromise, counting 3/5 of enslaved people toward a state's population. This mathematical inflation gave slaveholding states a massive advantage in Congress and protected the international slave trade for another 20 years. The resulting document was a functional treaty, but to become law, it still had to survive a battle for ratification in every state. The 1787 Constitution was a miracle of political engineering, but it was built on a volatile and morally compromised foundation. Ratification sparked a war of words between the Federalists, who wanted a powerful central state, and the Anti-Federalists, who feared a new American tyranny. The Anti-Federalists issued a clear demand. They would only support the Constitution if it included specific written limits on government power. This concession led to the first 10 amendments, the Bill of Rights. However, these amendments contained a fatal blind spot. They restricted only the federal government. State governments remained free to suppress speech and uphold slavery without consequence. While the first founding created a functional structure, it failed to protect human rights or guarantee equality at the local level. The 1787 compromises over slavery eventually fractured the nation, collapsing into a war that tore the country apart along the Mason-Dixon line. In the bloody aftermath of the Civil War, it became clear that the original Constitution was inadequate and required a massive rewrite. This period of Reconstruction, the passage of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, is often called America's second founding. The 14th Amendment established birthright citizenship and brought the word equality into the Constitution for the first time. It also changed the mechanics of American law by forcing state governments to finally respect the protections in the Bill of Rights. These amendments inverted the Constitution's power dynamic, shifting it from a state-centric compromise into a national charter of civil rights. Those promises were immediately suppressed by violence and political indifference in the South, leaving the newly freed population vulnerable for decades. It took a century of public battles to actually enforce the text of the Reconstruction Amendments and expand the vote to all citizens. The civil rights movement of the mid-20th century compelled the federal government to finally enforce the Constitution and fulfill its 19th century promises. The U.S. Constitution is an evolving architecture that requires every generation to fight to fulfill and expand its promises.